All right. Hello. Welcome to the Face Off Podcast, episode 15, number 15, the big 15. That seems more important than 14 for some reason. I'm not sure what it is. Maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe we like that because it's not an even number. I guess 16 is more important than 15, but even 15 seems more important than 16 for some reason. In my head, at least, it's like maybe it's just the the 10 and the 5, that's 3 of the same thing, all smushed together. 16, you just got one extra little thing out there. I don't know. The teenage years seem overrated in our society. I like the idea of teenagers all going out together and growing up together, sitting on a flat rock in the sun and not doing it, just hanging out with each other, and that's it. Don't even not even technically part of society until they survive the flat rock in the sun for 7 years or something. I wouldn't have survived, I'll tell you that much right now. Man, I was soft. I was a soft teenager, I think. I don't really know, maybe not. I know I was a soft teenager, but I took a lot of tumbles, a lot of falling, and a lot of beating myself up. And engineering what this is that sits before you today, doing the 15th episode of a podcast about Face Off. That's getting pretty deep. We're talking like solid 25, 26 hours of ostensibly some Face Off talk. That's a lot of time, man. That's a lot of time. This podcast is slated to go 52 episodes. I don't know though. Might be completely insane by the time 52 rolls around and just keep it going forever. Or just keep on face-offing all day long. I feel like it's kind of steered away. We're not 100% into face-off all the time here. But still a fair amount. Still trying to get that movie in I'm pretty positive that I finished it this week. It's getting a little weird with the switch from Tuesdays to Fridays. It's a little like I'm not sure if I'm over counting for this week because I split it up. I've been splitting it up. So I know that I finished Face Off and restarted it at some point this week. So I think that'll do. Also watched a video with Nic Cage where he and it was like it was for me. It was like they did it just for me. It was GQ magazine. I don't know if it's new. I think it was though. I think it was pretty new. It just popped up on YouTube on my feed, which that feed, man, that thing is weird. Like I want to look at somebody else's feed and see if it's just my feed that's weird. You know? Like it is mostly like hip-hop videos, like underground sort of hip-hop videos, and then these internet guitarist videos, a lot of that stuff, of people doing weird stuff, like Rob Scallion. He's pretty crazy. He did a cover of Enter Sandman where he played the whole thing. He figured out how to play it backwards and then reverse the tape. It was pretty trippy, man. That's some serious dedication to the craft. But yeah, those guys are cool. There's some serious virtuosity out there. So we got hip hop videos, the internet guitarists. I got some comedy videos. Usually some stuff pops up there, some like Patrice O'Neal stuff and shit like that. And what was the other stuff? Like weird crusty punk videos. I don't know if it's crusty punk, but it's just like those crazy like Toxic Holocaust isn't really a punk band, but like Vitamin X is pretty good. There's a couple other ones I'm sure. I can't think of right off the top of my head, but stuff like that, cartoons and stuff, all this shit. It's nothing heavy. Angela sometimes surfs on my profile, and so I'll get a bunch of conspiracy theory stuff popping up. I do watch some of those conspiracy theory videos, but mine are different. Like, I don't know, they're weirder, like just more esoteric garbage stuff, and hers are more like 9/11 and JFK, and she likes some like serial killer stuff. But then this thing called a homunculus video starts popping up. Like, what did I do to deserve that? And what it is basically somebody takes bodily fluids and tries to grow a creature in their basement, and I'm not sure if it's fake or not. It sounds fake, it looks fake, but there's part of me that's like, no, that's real. It's almost like I want to keep the option open or something. Like, it's possible you could probably do something like that. It is not cool though. Definitely not cool. Real creepy, man. So what was going on? Oh yeah, this Nic Cage video pops up, and it's Nic Cage sitting by himself in a room talking about his most iconic roles, and what do you know? Castor Troy's on the list. Motherfucking Castor Troy, son. And he talks about it like it's this, I mean, and who am I to argue? But he is saying that it was one of his favorite roles. That he had this idea that he could kind of go, like, that the guy was losing his mind, so he could kind of go crazy. And I was like talking about German expressionism and having all these crazy facial features that he wanted to use and stuff like that, and how John Woo was a very operatic director and all this. But he was talking about, like, that's one of his favorite roles and stuff. And it struck me like, what? I bet you it was a fun movie to make. I bet you it was fun. Like, it's goofy. They're having a good time. It was crazy. There's shit flying everywhere. They're probably having fun, I would think. Like, I like The Wolf of Wall Street. When I was watching that movie with Leonardo DiCaprio and Jonah Hill and a billion other people. Was that Margot Robbie was in that movie? And who else was in that one? It seems like a bunch of other people, but I was like, it was a Martin Scorsese movie. I was like, this is just an excuse to have a huge party. That's all they were doing this whole time. They were just, let's have huge parties and film it. It'll be great. That's what we'll make that movie about. We'll just have these huge parties. I've heard of people like pushing movies through because they want to go spend a month in Spain and that's where it's going to film, that kind of thing. But I don't know anything about that world. Just what I hear on DVD commentary. There's a lot hidden in that DVD commentary. The best DVD commentary that I've ever heard in my life, one of the funniest things that I've ever heard in my life, was on the DVD of Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines. They had a commentary that would switch out in between people, so they weren't all sitting in the same room. So it would be like the director would be talking for a minute, and then they'd switch over to Claire Danes would get on there and say something, and then they'd switch over to Arnold Schwarzenegger or that other dude, homeboy Nick something. Nick. He was the guy that played the yellow bastard in Sin City. God, what was that guy's name? I didn't really care for him too much. I liked that movie. I thought it was fun and goofy. Anyway, Arnold Schwarzenegger's commentary in that fucking movie is the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life. That guy is delusional as fuck and totally crazy. This was at I wouldn't say this was the peak of his insanity, but this might be right before he decided to run for governor and stuff. So it was pretty close, but he's just talking about all sorts of shit, like how women would love if they could change the size of their tits at random, and And that would be great for the ladies, you know. They would really love that because they would be able to please their man better. And maybe he likes little tits, maybe he likes huge tits. Either way, you got it. Because there's a part of the movie where Kristana Loken changes the size. Anyway, you get the picture. And he's talking about the fight scenes. He's like, oh, yeah, we're not actually punching each other. Sometimes it's me and Kristana. Sometimes it's Kristana with a pillow. Sometimes it's me with a pillow. And I smash the pillow through the wall. But it's not a wall. It's just a green curtain. Do you understand? Things are different. I'm not doing a fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger impression, all right? So just don't even write any angry letters. I'm just not doing it. I'm not saying I don't have a glorious Arnold Schwarzenegger impression to whip out. I'm just not going to do it because it's fucking hacky, all right? And I am a stone cold gasser over here. I don't know if you can hear. I don't think you can, but my dog's snoring again in the background. As soon as I start talking, she loses interest in life and just falls asleep. Just doesn't give a damn. She likes to get that snooze. I think it's more that she's protective of me, and she's like, well, he looks like he is taken care of. He's got something to do. I don't need to protect him, and if a wolf runs in, I will just wake up and kill it. No biggie. Okay, so Terminator, let's try to backtrack here. Terminator 3, Rise of the Machines. Go out to a pawn shop and buy that DVD. Spend the $3.99 to buy the DVD. Go listen to the director's cut. It is fucking hilarious. Totally weird. Arnold Schwarzenegger, delusional weirdo. So this got me thinking. Nicolas Cage talking about Face Off, that this is one of his favorite movies, one of his favorite roles, you know. He even said that he would like to reprise that role where he gets to play Castor Troy through the whole movie, you know? And that's an interesting thing because I would like to make a Face-Off movie. That's better. That's crazy. That's insane. I've been thinking about it. I think it would be cool to make a Face-Off cartoon that incorporates all the crazy, like, behind-the-scenes, implied, like, mythological stuff, like the idea that Castor Troy sires his son on the eve of Michael Archer's murder, you know, that idea, the idea of like what's his name, Tito's last day, you know, his behind the scenes, the last day, what he does on his last couple of days of life, you know. And even like how he made coming up through the academy and stuff, all this crazy shit, you know. He's just a badass, right? And all these other people, Margaret Cho, what's she up to? What's her deal? Her name's Wanda. What's going on with her? You know, all these people in the clandestine, the boss people and stuff that just show up, special ops or whatever. And of course, the relationship between Pollux and Castor and all that stuff, and the henchmen. What do those henchmen do in between scenes and stuff? And the two Lazaro's whole thing, and the other guy, the unnamed bodyguard, or not bodyguard. I keep saying bodyguard, but that's not right. Like security guard. He's basically like a security guard. They bring him on. He doesn't say a word, doesn't have a line. He just shows up twice doing nothing. Just the best. So fucking great. I feel like I could watch 90 minutes of that guy doing nothing and be way more entertained than the whole movie. So it would be awesome. And then also to incorporate a bunch of the stuff that got left out. Like if it was Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone instead of Travolta and Nicolas Cage, and then if Castor Troy's mom was played by Jack Nicholson and drag, that'd be fucking sweet. You could totally do it in animation without anybody's permission or anything. You could just go nuts with it. It'd be great to have Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, and they switch faces, but they just have the same bodies still, and the faces are just like sewn on with like shoelaces or something. So it's just these huge, ridiculous stitches in their face, and they don't change their bodies at all, or the way that they talk or anything like that. That would be fucking classic, like an Adult Swim kind of, 80 episodes or so. You'd probably really pull it off. Like, it'd be fucking sweet. And I was thinking, like, the kind of humor. I don't know if anybody's watched Metalocalypse, but if you haven't, you're probably not missing out on much. But that kind of humor, it's like kind of dry, kind of just real in jokey humor, and then the art style of this comic Chew. If you haven't read Chew, it's fucking tight, man. That's a cool comic. It's about what is it about? It's about the FDA and the agents of the FDA. And there's this chicken crisis, man. It's going to be really hard to explain, but a lot of the people in the world have powers related to eating. So, like, one guy can take a bite of something and see the history of it. So if he bites you on the arm or something, he sees all your history and everything. It's got some weird implications, but it's awesome. And the art style would be perfect. Like, it's just in my head, like that would be excellent because it's got sort of a tinge of like manga-ish, but not quite. It's like a real good mix of manga and like heavy duty, like American comic strip sort of excellence. Real expressive, badass, cool shit. So that's my vision. That's the vision I have right now, and that's as far as I got. And sometimes that's all you need. is to get just that far, right? That's all I need right now. I'm happy with that. I'm gonna probably end up writing a script for it, and then never ever doing anything with it, because it is, even as I'm saying it, I realize that it is a completely ridiculous, insane idea that could be super awesome. So anybody wants to steal that idea from me, I basically just want to see it happen. I don't have to be involved. I don't give a shit. I'm a low rent, minimum wage type of dude. I got narrow vision or way too wide a vision, one of the two. So Nicolas Cage, I keep getting off a track here. Nicolas Cage sitting in a white room in a white leather jacket talking about all his movies. He is a weird dude, man. That's all there is to it. There is no two ways about it. That is an odd fella right there. But I think that he hasn't watched Face Off in a long time. Maybe never. I heard that Johnny Depp doesn't watch his own movies, and he said it with some disdain too, which is a little bit off-putting, because the scene that I saw, it was on David Letterman, I think, and David Letterman was like, "Hey, do you like your movies? You go watch them?" And he's like, "Oh, hell no, I don't go watch that shit." Like, oh, no way, friend. No way. I will make the sausage, but I am not going to partake, because that is some disgusting garbage. So I don't know. Maybe he's just a nervous Nelly. Maybe he's embarrassed. But it also felt like that conspiracy mind kicks up, and he's like, I don't get it. I don't go in for that hypnosis shit. That's why I'm different than all you squares. You fucking squares, because I am a Freeman. I got this really crazy idea, and it's been percolating in my head. I've mentioned it a couple of times on here, but about life as a video game. And then the Illuminati people are like the actual players of the game, and we're all just these programmed schlubs that are doing stuff. Like, if you play Grand Theft Auto, there's people walking around in the streets, just do, and you can bump into them or punch them, rob them, kill them, do whatever you want with them, And they can do stuff. They'll fight back and everything, but they only do what they're programmed to do, and their programming can be really, really intricate, really sophisticated. So it seems like they're doing something, like they're choosing to do something, but it's not. It's just a decision tree, a whole bunch of different options. Like if this happens, then these 3 things could happen, and if one of those is, these 6 things could happen. Just a complicated decision tree, and it's programmed in there. So that's what I think. We're just a bunch of schlubs. We're all programmed to do certain things, and it's kind of like it. The idea is it would come to a crescendo, eventually. So like a Sim City sort of thing. You start out with just some little houses, and then eventually it ends up being this big old thing, and then eventually everybody dies, or you keep them alive. I don't know how it works, but so let me see here. So if Johnny Depp was one of the players of this game, he would be a fairly benevolent one, I think, at this point. Maybe there's different factions, maybe the Illuminati are this sort of faction that they all play together. They're like these in the real world. They're like these crazy multi-headed squid monster things, and they put on these they have a virtual reality suppositories that they have to put in their tentacle anuses, and all 40 of their tentacle anuses, and then they boot up into this world where they have a person avatar of like the Warren Buffett or Putin, Vladimir Putin, and they're like here I am playing as Vladimir Putin. What am I going to do today? What am I going to do? What's Warren Buffett going to do today? And they got their own buddies. They got their other multi-headed 40 tentacled VR anus wearing buddies in the real world, and they get together in the virtual world and hang out, like you would with your buddy. In these video games, I used to play a game on PS3 called Soldier of Fortune Payback, and there was like 8 people in the world who would play online. That was it. There was never anybody else. And then one of my buddies from across town, he got a copy of the game, and he would get on there. So there was 9 people that would play. It's not even hardly enough for a good death match, but and it was crazy because I got to know all those people, how they worked and stuff, and who was really good. I was one of the best of the 9 players on Soldier of Fortune Payback. I would smoke motherfuckers all day long. I was always getting first place, man. That's because most of those people were changing out and playing it for the first time and then never coming back to play it again. But so yeah, that's what these double-headed squid monsters are doing. Is they our world is just their virtual world. So they show up here and they do what people do in video games. They go be bad people, they accumulate wealth, like Mario, man. In Mario Brothers, that motherfucker is snagging coin all day long. That's what he's looking for, coin and royalty. That's what he wants all day long, and he's killing motherfuckers on the way, dude. We're just goombas getting jumped on and shit. We look ugly and retarded and poisonous because we are, I guess you'd say, but those Illuminati squids are just jumping on our heads all day long in the little Italian guy avatar. Wouldn't that be crazy though to think about? Like if this was a simulation, the layers of detail that have to go into it. So like if you just take Mario Brothers is a simulation for us. That's a simulation for the simulation to play and grow and use a stimulus and stuff. But check it out. So in order for Mario Brothers to be a thing, Italians had to be a thing. so Italians had to come along, but not just Italians, because it had to be Italians interpreted through the lens of the Japanese, and the Japanese had to be a thing. And then not just the Japanese, but this is post World War II Japanese people. I mean, way post World War II, which I see that as a delineation point, man. If you get some cities obliterated by futuristic weapons from across the world, then your shit changes up, dude. You're no longer the same. That is a delineation point, my friend. Things get different. I feel like it got like those guys went into overdrive. They went into hyperdrive. They were like, oh shit, this is how it's gonna be. Well, let's go do that then. Let's go do that. So they're like super capitalist over there now. They're like us in 70 years, they're ahead of the game. They're the new owners or whatever. I don't know how you want to put it. So all this stuff has to happen in the Big Bang. The Big Bang is just part of the game. That's just turning it on. Bloop. Here's the newest game going online. And it's just us, and then other dimensions and stuff like that. That's just other servers in the network, all that shit. It's crazy. So there's a lot of depth to this game. But as I've said ad nauseum, you can't argue that eventually games will get to the point, virtual reality will get to the point where it's indistinguishable from real life. Whether that's in 2 days or 15,000 years, it'll happen. And if it will happen, who's to say it didn't already happen? And who's to say that we're not just anus hallucinations from crazy multi-headed squid beings from another dimension? And it would be another dimension, even if it was that's like the real world. That would be so great if that was reality. And we were just this is the delusion, and that's the reality. I don't even think so. If we were able to somehow do the thing where we travel through the machine and reverse avatar one of these squid monsters, you think we'd even be able to? Like the squid monster body would even be able to host the human mind, or the projection of the simulated human mind. The idea that I just can't see humans as being the thing in the world. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, this is it. I feel like all of our progress and all of our invention and all that stuff, it's just what do you call it? It's projections of inner neurosis, and then the neurosis is greatened by the projections, which creates more projections, which creates more neurosis. It's just an endless cycle of insanity. I mean, if you go walk through the woods for like 30-40 minutes, it's like, damn, this is. If you live in the city, but then you go walk through the woods, you're like, whoa, this is weird. It's way different out here. Like the real deal woods. I'm not talking like going fucking camping at the KOA. I'm talking the real deal woods, man. You go walk around in that for like 20 or 30 minutes. It is crazy. Right? It's like, oh, this is insane, man. I mean, this is a lot of shit. But if you spend a couple of days out there, it starts to make sense. You're like, okay, this makes sense. Because this is how it is. I mean, obviously this is how things grow. It's just trying to live. Everything here is trying to live. And then after a couple of weeks, you leave that and come back to the city. You're like, holy fucking shit. This is insane. None of this is trying to live. All of this is just trying to survive. Every single organism in this city is just trying to muddle through to the next fucking day. Just trying to get it, like, oh, God damn it. It's crazy. It's insane. It's madness. I have a joke about catching squirrels and bringing them into my apartment, and they look out the window at the park across the street, and they're like, why would you live next to the park? Why don't you live in the park? That's sort of I don't know if that's a good analogy. I might have just wanted to talk about squirrels for a second there. Okay, where are we at here? We got I should write this stuff down because I always forget in the mix. I'd like to remember. Let's see here. I'm going to try to remember some stuff really quick. I'm going to try to rework where we're at here. do you ever do this? Do you ever go back, like, and I'm talking to you, obviously, duh, if I'm right here, like, if I'm here, I'm probably lit, like, in your ear hole. Isn't that a weird, intimate place for my entire being to be sitting? Like, just in if you could imagine, because you know me, I don't think anybody is listening to this shit who doesn't know me, right? So you're listening to me and you got this little thing shoved in your ear hole. Either that or it's like in a car stereo or something like that. Either way, it doesn't matter. But if you just pictured a little teeny tiny itty bitty me that was just sitting like how that guy on that little fisherman on the DreamWorks logo who's fishing off of the back side of the D, which is like the moon or something like that, or fishing in, I don't know how it works, but he's just sitting there sort of 1 foot hanging down, 1 foot up. He's kind of fishing there, and that's me sitting inside your ear hole, just a little teeny Derek sitting inside your ear canal right on this with my little foot hanging down. I'm probably barefoot too, so you can feel the one toes. They're just sort of gripping your little ear hairs there, and the other one's just dangling. A little cute Derek foot. They're not really that cute. They're pretty nasty, even tiny, I bet. Just hanging, dangling there, and I'm just chatting right in your ear hole, just putting my thoughts into your brain. So just keep that in mind every time from this point forward, that's what I'm thinking about. Is your tiny little weird ear holes and me hanging out in there. So I'm gonna here's the idea. It's Tangent City over here. That's probably gonna be this episode, Tangent City. I don't even know if I'll get to the list of things. This is the Face Off Podcast, episode 15, Tangent City. Man, zing. Woo! That's too big of a title. We'll go with Tangent City. I like that. So, do you ever do this thing where you have thoughts and they go and go and go and go? And this, if this was told to me by a specific person, and I'm repeating it as my own thought because it was my own thought before this person told me this thought, and it was shocking how alike the thoughts were. You know what I mean? Like, we might have actually talked about it beforehand or something like that, but it was my buddy of mine. He was saying, so he says, do you ever just stop thinking on a thought and then try to figure out how you got to that thought? So you start working backwards. So I'm thinking about hockey skates for some reason, and it feels like I've been thinking about them for a really long time. And then it's like, well, what caused that? You know, what caused hockey skates to come into my head? And you're like, well, right before hockey skates, I was thinking about snow cones and when they shave the ice off of the big brick, you know, and how that looks like when they stop on hockey skates. And right before the snow cones, I was thinking about syrupy sugar and the county fair. And before that, I was thinking about giant ice blocks. And before that, I was thinking about Antarctica, and I was thinking about the Rescue Rangers cartoon. And before that, I was thinking about a hot dog, which led to the Rescue Rangers because of that fat squirrel. He's a rat. Monterey Jack the rat. Did he eat hot dogs? I don't fucking know. All right, so that was a bad example. But do you ever do that? You ever try to do that? Because I try to do that. So I'm going to do it live right now. I'm going to try to rework the podcast and come up with some stuff, try to go backwards. So we were just talking about mind tracks, retracing mind tracks. Before that, I was talking about my buddy Chris having the same thoughts as me. Before that, I was talking about being a tiny little person sitting in your ear holes, giving you thoughts, giving you ideas, probably bad ideas, probably distracting you from work. Before that, I was talking about tangents. I think those were separate. I think those were reversed. I think I was talking about tangents before or after talking about a little tiny ear hole, but going in reverse is before. So, Tangent City, Panic at the Disco. Yeah, That was a thing. I was talking about those gigantic multi-headed squid demons that had 40 tentacle anuses that they had to insert VR probes into in order to play our bodies as avatars in this world. The Illuminati was the thing I was talking about. I was talking about Nic Cage in a white leather jacket sitting in a white room talking about all his movies. I was talking about a dude talking about stuff. I was talking about Face Off. That's it. That's as far back as I can go. I can't think of anything else. We're 36 minutes in right now, and there's at least 25 minutes of stuff that I didn't even come close to covering. So, I was talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger. We were talking about making a cartoon with Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone, talking about Chew, talking about Metalocalypse. We're talking about sewing people's faces on with shoelaces. All right, this has been a great review. Let's get moving. Let's keep this Bad Mama Jamma train rolling on down the line. I'm talking about getting a drink of water and off mic, but on camera. If all went well, you didn't hear any of that, and you're not grossed out right now by all my disgusting mouth noises, except for the disgusting mouth noises that I intend to record with all of this fancy equipment here. Real quick, I didn't talk about at the top of the episode. Last week, I talked about some podcasts that I like to listen to. There was one, Phil Kopsinski's podcast, One-Offs with Phil Kopp. Forgot about because it wasn't on my podcast player, but now it is. It was just on Spotify, but now it's not. It's available. It's called One-Offs. It's a local pod. Some local pod for that ass. Get out there and listen to funny stories and comedy stuff. I tried listening to, here's some stuff. I tried listening to Dumb People Town, which is the podcast by the Sklar brothers, who are hilarious twin stand-ups. And Dan Van Kirk's on there also, who's a good, hilarious stand-up too. Isn't that the prerequisite? If you're going to talk about a stand-up comedian, they're either hilarious or they're hacks. I don't know if you can be both. A hilarious hack. I think you could. I think you could successfully do that. You could be a really funny hack, where most people are just like, "Yeah, this is great. Yeah, this is great. This is great, man. This is what I like. This is the good stuff," where you just distill it. A dog didn't like that voice. He's like, "Shut the fuck up, you son of a bitch." Whereas a comedian, you just distill down other people's ideas into something new. I don't really like that. That drives me nuts. I'll turn a motherfucker off. That's the only power I got, is to turn somebody off. When I'm watching them on their super successful Netflix special, that's all I can do is turn them off, is shut them down, and then silently hold a grudge for the rest of my life and feel superior in some reversal of mental fortunes here. What were we talking about? I already forgot. Son of a bitch. Phil Kopp. We're talking about his podcast. He's got a good podcast. The hilarious stand-up, Phil Kopsinski. He's got a great podcast. Go check it out. So, Dumb People Town. I can't listen to Dumb People Town because it's got too many advertisements in it. If you're a rabid fan of the Face Off podcast, you'll have recognized that last week I did not put up any posts on social media about the Face Off podcast. That's because it feels too much like advertising. I hate advertising. I'm an anti-advertising person. I am staunchly against advertising of any kind at all. And I've spoken long and hard on the subject of being anti-advertising. And so I recognize that in my feeds, my Facebook feeds and stuff, I get tons of I don't think people would consider them advertisements, because they're like for shows, they're for podcasts, they're for this thing that I'm doing, come and check this out, go buy my book, blah, 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 all this different shit. But they're ads. They're just, they're not necessarily like sponsored ads. They're not paid for. The slots aren't paid for, and they're not necessarily good. Like a McDonald's ad. McDonald's ad, love them or hate McDonald's, are good. Those ads are well and paid for and duly studied, So, but my face off, I got to slow down here. My Facebook is just filled with ads because I got a bunch of comedian friends on there. And it's just like, come to my show, listen to my podcast, and a lot of them have multiple different pages, different entities, and they have the same thing. So it's like 100. Oh, God damn it. And they do it like for 3 times a week. Okay, it's coming up. It's in a month. And now it's in 29 days. Don't forget it. And I would do that too. I'm not doing any stand-up right now till the beginning of the year. But I would do that also when I was doing stand-up and I'd be on a show. I would say, come out to the show. Here's it going. This is it. Come on and check it out. I'm going to be there. Why don't you be there too? And I always tried to write like some weird ass thing about how it was going to be so good that the, split dimensional flesh and gush through eons of horror and slavery and all this shit. And you should definitely be there so you could be the first to fall to your knees and lick the boots of our new overlords, and it was going to be that hilarious. Or that the building would explode. This is your last chance to be in this building because the hilariousness is going to destroy the material foundation of the idea of the building in general. Anyway, I would try to justify it. I'd be like, oh, this is funny, but it's an ad. And I'm not an ad guy. I don't want to do that. So I'm not putting up face-off podcast ads anymore. I might try to figure out how to put it on there so you could just press play and listen to it. Because that's more like giving away something. I like that idea of creating something and then giving it away. I wrote a book, putting that out every week. For you just to have it. It's for you. And at the end of it, I'll put out a collated version, the whole version, so you can just read it from start to finish instead of waiting and doing it episodically like a total bean hole. I don't know what a bean hole is, but so anyway, that was a long way of saying I'm not try not to advertise anymore. I don't like it. I don't like ads, and I don't like it. I don't mind like how Rogan does it, or a couple other people where they're like, the first 15 minutes of this podcast is all ads, so you can just skip right through it, But man, it bugs me when they split it up, they put it in the middle, do the commercial. I get it. You get your money. Go get your money. And I'll tell you right now, man, if fucking MeUndies was like, hey, Derek, MeUndies wants to float you $10 a week to talk about MeUndies on your podcast, I'd be like, $10 a week? Shit, that's half of the first plasma donation, son. I'm on it. And you would be hearing about MeUndies because I'm a fucking sellout just waiting to be offered any amount of money to do the worst thing I could possibly imagine. I guess it's not that bad. But the one thing that I ever took away from Bill Hicks, I don't like Bill Hicks as a comic. I didn't like his particular style or the character or whatever that he was doing, or many of his bits. But there was one that I liked, and it was that he said, and I keep it next to my heart because I think it's beautiful in its simplicity and stuff. But it was to say that once a human being advertises for a company, everything that person says from that point forward is suspect, because they have sold out to that company, to that demon, and I don't think he even used the term sold out. That's a pretty derided term. Like, what does that even fucking mean, right? But what it means is that you become the mouthpiece for this company, and maybe that's the one time you ever did it. But I think as succinctly and simply as possible is to say, if somebody has sold their time, their voice to a company for any reason, that person's words are suspect in perpetuity. In perpetuity. I love that word, perpetuity. It's got good punch to it. So let's jump back to the middle beginning. Nicolas Cage sitting in a white room with a white leather jacket talking about Face Off. He said he liked that movie. I don't think he's seen it in a very long time. And if he did, maybe he would be like, no, never mind, it's not that good. I think that the reason, so Face Off has a fairly high standing on like Rotten Tomatoes, and pretty much anywhere that I read about it, people are like, oh yeah, that was a great movie. That was a good movie. It was at least a good movie, a good time, a lot of fun. Campy, but whatever. It's cool. It's good stuff, but it's not. It sucks. It's crap. So I think that that Face Off, that residual joyous feeling that people have for it, where they're like, oh, it was a good movie, I liked it, it was good times and stuff. I think that is the act of nostalgia. That is the result of nostalgia over that movie, because I think a lot of people saw it at a certain time, in their lives. I saw it when I was 17 years old, and I thought going into this that it was a pretty good movie, that it wasn't nearly as horrible as it is, but it is. And so I thought it was pretty good. And I think the reason why I thought it was pretty good was because of nostalgia. I had that sickness of nostalgia over this movie. And I, over the last several years, have actively taken to avoiding nostalgia whenever possible, and really digging into what it is. When I hear a song and I'm nostalgic for it, I'm like, ugh, what is being aware of it, like I'm taking a drug or something, And I heard it was an odd thing I actually heard on a podcast, a local podcast, the Weak Words with Ryan McComb and Sam Vidovich. Is that dude Russian? Is that a Russian name? Are you a spy, Sam? Sam Vidovich. Is that right? It sounds kind of Russian. Vidovich. It's Sam Vidovich. Is that a Russian accent? Anyway, Ryan McComb said on one episode, he said, I hate nostalgia. And it was crazy because I felt that way for years and years. And anybody that I ever talked to about it would be like, you are weird. How can you hate nostalgia? That's the good stuff. But nostalgia, I feel like I'm saying it wrong. Nostalgia, nostalgia is a sickness. It's the actual definition of it is got something to do with a sickness. I don't know. I can't remember what it was. Look it up. I'm not going to look it up. Why would I do that? It doesn't make any sense. So the nostalgic part of it is what gives it its power, and I don't like that when something only is good because of the nostalgia for it. And I think what I think nostalgia is a fooling of the senses. I think all the senses come together and they're fooled, by one sense, or one or two or whatever. So like if I'm sitting here watching Face Off and I'm letting nostalgia take over, I'm not just seeing it and hearing it, I'm kind of feeling it and smelling it and tasting the time, the time when this was around. So if I look back, I know what Face Off looks like to me because I've watched it so many fucking times in the past several months. I know what it looks like, but what it looks like to me isn't on a flat. It's not a flat screen. It's a cathode tube screen, and it's a VHS tape is what it actually looks like in my head to me. Like, even when I'm watching it on this flat screen or on a phone or something, it still comes across like a VHS tape on a cathode tube, and it sounds tinny. It's not great. Maybe it's hooked up to like my like a stereo system or an amplifier or something, and it just sounds a little bit off. It sounds a little odd. It's not that digital quality where you can hear every single little mistake and all the separation, and it's in 3.0. No, it's like mono. It's coming right through a bass amplifier. It's got a weird, it sounds off all the time. Even in the theater it sounds off because they're confused about surround sound and how it works still. It's new technology. The way that in the way that it looks also is shabby. Things look shabby. Like, my apartment doesn't look too bad, but it's the surrounding is shabby. It's like, I think of the first house that I lived in, watching this movie over and over again, and it smells damp to me. It smells damp and like incense, a lot of incense and stuff. I can sense that, and pot smoke and everything, and it's not happening when I'm watching this movie now, but it's there in a ghost form, and that's what's creating the nostalgia. And the taste is like Sobe iced teas, you know what I mean? Like Sobe iced teas and Safeway Select Cola, and that's that flavor that's there. That's what Face Off tastes like nostalgically to me, and it feels like one of those couches that is how it's like it looks like plaid, but it's a bunch of strings, so when you run your hands across it, you can feel the strings of the couch. Those old couches like that. That's what it feels like. It feels like that to me, and it doesn't. And again, it doesn't feel. None of this stuff is actually happening, and that's what the nostalgia is. That's what the sickness is. Is my senses are confused. The senses are feeling these ghost emotions. The ghost stimulus of this movie that isn't that. It's none of those things. It exists in ones and zeros. It's just this digital projection with sounds and stuff, but it represents for me something completely different. And I think that Nicolas Cage, I think that this movie probably, when he looks back on it, I can't even imagine his nostalgia. It's got to be like amplified, super amped craziness. Like if he was doing all kinds of crazy drugs or anything like that. That's another one too, I guess you could say, is like my mental state was more psychedelic back then too. So when I'm watching this movie, I have this ghost echoes of the psychedelic, taking mushrooms and acid just willy-nilly all the time, and this kind of freedom too, because I didn't work for a long time back then and stuff. I didn't start working until I was like 18, late 18, doing crazy criminal shit, and just this it's all wrapped up in this movie, but it's not real. I mean, it was real, but this ghost echo shit is not real. It's just this thing. But that's what I mean, it's pretty specific, the things that it feels like, the way that it affects all those senses and everything. So I can't imagine, like, when Nicolas Cage thinks back, what he thinks of. I mean, it could be like, I don't know, because that was big. It was like some big time shit for him, It's crazy to think of actors and shit as normal ass people that are just like, oh yeah, I got this movie and it was slightly bigger than my last movie and I got paid a little bit more and I'm pretty happy about that, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to pay the bills in a year. You know what I mean? There's no stability in Hollywood. It's got to drive a human crazy. I mean, I can't imagine myself in Hollywood doing stuff. You know, I had a job where they gave you a paycheck at the first of the month, and it was for the month prior. So you had to work a whole month before you got one paycheck, and then make that paycheck work through the whole month and wait another month to get paid. That is crazy. I can imagine being like, okay, yeah, you got this movie and you haven't had a movie for a year, but you got this one, and so here's your money, and now go away and goodbye, and maybe you'll get another one. So you're gonna have another one? There's people that fell the fuck off, dude, that were like on top of the world. Like Cuba Gooding Jr. was won an Academy Award, didn't he, for Boys in the Hood, and then like literally 2 or 3 years later just disappeared. It was in you know, like it did the reverse for him somehow. My timeline might be off. He might have just been steadily working. I was in a movie with Cuba Gooding Jr., by the way. All right. I didn't ever meet him. I didn't meet him. He didn't seem great. He would come to set he would pull up and jump out of the car and do his lines and then jump back in the car and drive off. That was pretty crazy. It was like, yeah, that's gotta be weird to be that driver driving the guy around, you know. I don't know, maybe it's not weird. People do stuff. That's your jobs. I got a job. Everybody's got a job. Okay, let's talk about a little face-off stuff here. I feel like this has been a good tangential conversation. It's just been shooting off in all directions. That's the kind I like. That's the sort of thing that I like. I don't like, I keep trying to come in here with a plan and it doesn't work. I can't tame this podcast demon. It's just madness. It's just insanity. It's a stupid idea. But here we are. Here we are. And like, for real, like, hey man, thanks for checking it out. Thanks for letting me sit in your ear hole and say stuff inside your ear hole and not even use my good voice. I don't know. I don't know if I even have. It feels like I can do a deep voice, but only when I'm not trying to. And when I try to, it just sounds stupid. I guess it probably sounds stupid even when I'm not trying to do it. Isn't that an odd? That's an actual thing that I've heard about a couple of times, where you know how to do something and you can do it, but you can only do it when you're not trying to do it. I think it happens to sports people, baseball players and stuff, where they're like, I know how to pitch a 90-mile-an-hour fastball straight down the middle. Is that what you would say? But if I think about it, I can't do it. That's awesome. That's such a weird thing. That's like, it makes me think of like a video game thing where it's like a Luke Skywalker thing. Oh yeah, wait, that was Luke Skywalker. He took the helmet thing off. You got to use your heart. You got to use the Force, Luke. Go ahead and use the Force, Luke. That's my Obi-Wan Kenobi impression right there. That thing is sweet. It's a tight impression. Go on and use the Force, Luke. So he takes his helmet off and uses the Force. He's basically flying blind and blows up the entire Death Star. Death Star. And then in Dodgeball, when he blindfolds himself to dodge the balls. I literally have no idea what I'm talking about right now. I don't know where it got off of. I'm trying to backpedal in my mind and keep talking, but it is not working at all. Let's get into it. We got a couple face-off things here. Oh, that's the other part of the face-off animated series starring Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger in the style of Chew, by with Metalocalypse style humor and all the good stuff is the theory that Archer's dead, that this is all some crazy mythological fantasy world that he's conjuring up, trying to get out of purgatory, fight his way up through Hades and make it to Valhalla. I think I mixed those mythologies. That's okay. Norse and Greek go together like peanut and butter. Oh man. Okay. This is good. This is great, really. I had to tell you, I'm about ready to get into it, to just dive in here. I might be trying to avoid it a little bit. That might be happening right now. That's okay. I can sit with that for a moment. You got anything in your life that's going on that you just need to sit with? Anything you're trying to avoid? You just need to take a minute to sit with? Go ahead and drudge that up right now. And we'll just sit with it for 2 seconds. All right, enough of that shit. Let's move on to Face Off. Here's some things that I've noticed out of my latest viewing of Face Off. Remind me at the end of this to, I don't know how you're going to do it. It's going to have to be psychic. You know, you're going to have to remind me with such psychic energy that it travels backwards through time and hits me now while I'm recording this instead of like sideways in time, like if I was sitting right next to you. You know, maybe just, I think the little guy, the little me sitting in your ear, I think he's like pan-dimensional. So if you just say it out loud, like if I'm like signing off without getting back to it, then you just say it out loud. Say, hey, Derek, what movies have you been watching? What books have you been reading? What media have you been consuming? We want to know before you sign off. Then I'll hear it in reverse and then decipher it with my head, and I'll cover that stuff before signing off, before getting out of here. So episode 15 episode 15, tangent mania, tangential madness, tangent city. Let's move on to Face Off. The first conversation in this movie takes place 4-ish minutes into the movie, and it's a confrontational conversation. It's an angry one. There's a couple little tiny conversations leading up to it, but like, hey, have you had lunch? No. Oh, that's not a conversation. That's just a little chit chat. But the first one is Sean Archer asking if they have any news, and getting pissed off. Man. He gets pissed off. And it takes place like 4+ minutes into this movie, and that is fairly bold. Fairly bold for a big budget blockbuster action flick. Most of the time, you got to have some people talking pretty much constantly, jibber jabbering in your ear holes. You can have somebody driving real fast. Like if you don't have talk, you got to have some serious visual stimuli. I feel like this movie kind of doesn't have either right at the beginning. It's just sort of, it does. It's a lot of information right away, I guess. But I think I mentioned it before. There will be blood. 20 minutes or so, 15 minutes. There's the dog barking. I don't think it's coming through. She's funny. There will be blood. It's like 15 or 20 minutes of no talking at the beginning of that movie. And it's an awesome movie. It's just great. It puts you in kind of a weird meditative state which I like that. I think it's cool. I like that kind of, playing with your brains in the movies a little bit, but like not doing it too. They do it pretty overtly, where you're like, God damn, this is kind of going on, crazy, but it's interesting. Anyway, what the fuck, man? There's 3 balloons that ascend to heaven. I don't know why 3. Why not 2? Why not 1? I think it's meant to conjure ideas of Mikey's soul. I'm not really feeling this list today, it's a little bit whack. Let me just sort of, one thing that drives me crazy in the movies is when a plane takes off, and there's a plane that is heavily involved in the beginning of this movie, but when a plane takes off in a movie and it's really loud, jet engines roaring on the screen, why do they do that shit? I know what a fucking plane sounds like. It sounds horrible, and I hate the sound of it. Why the hell would you blare it up on the screen? Why not just quiet? Why not a quiet plane ticket? Why not no noise at all? I know what it sounds like. If you show me a plane and it's flying through the air, I don't need the sound in order to suspend my disbelief that it's a thing. And I don't give a fuck. I don't fucking care. It drives me insane. I hate that with cars and motorcycles and shit and blenders, or like in a baby's crying. It's like, you don't need to have the crying in there. I'm annoyed with there just being a baby there. It pisses me off to no end. You will never understand. So if you add the crying, I'm just going to turn off the movie. I'm going to walk out of the theater. I don't want it. I get it. It's stressful when a baby cries. It's annoying when a baby cries. And when I'm sitting in a movie theater and there's a baby crying on the screen, that is stressful and annoying, and I hate it. It's odd. I think a lot of movies these days intentionally try to stress people out, where it's like, man, I fucking walked out of there white knuckle, like man, that was a great movie. I feel like I need a massage and some Panda Express and a shot of Jägermeister. Do people still drink Jägermeister? I need a shot, and I need some drugs, some weed to calm down, man, because that movie just fucking wrecked my peace of mind, just destroyed me. I don't like that. I don't like being stressed out. I like having a good time, relaxing. If they didn't have mood music, that's another part. That's another audio thing that I don't like in movies. That's why I got into those HBO shows. There was kind of I wouldn't say a golden age, but there was a time right after The Sopranos, because I wasn't too into The Sopranos, but where there was Deadwood, and there was Rome, and there was Oz, and I want to say there was another couple of them, but those 3 in particular, they didn't have mood music, and the same with Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs. They didn't have mood music. They had music, but it was music within the context of the show. So like in Reservoir Dogs, it would turn on the radio in the car and music would play, and that's great, whatever, yeah, but it wouldn't be like music that's trying to make you feel something. I hate that. It would just be, you got to feel what you wanted to about the situation. It wasn't like that went on for too long. But you know what I'm saying? It wasn't there to stress you out. It's just like, oh yeah, there's some shit going down. It's crazy. I'm feeling a certain kind of way about it, And that's why I love those HBO shows, because they would let you feel however you wanted. You got to pick the bad guys, The Wire, that was the other one. Fuck, I love The Wire. That was a good movie, or a good show. But it was quiet. It was so quiet. When it was quiet, it was quiet. When people stopped talking, there was no noise. Unless they had the fucking radio playing, And that was great. I love that. And Face Off is a really good example of a movie that would be a very different movie I think it would be very sloppy, sloppier looking if it didn't have music, because if you don't have that mood music, it's got to be tight. You know, everything's got to be tight. It's got you talk shit. I'll talk shit about that fucking Quentin Tarantino all day long. But if you go back and watch Pulp Fiction, that's some masterful fucking direction, man. That guy had some ideas about how to move shit around, you know, and he had to because there was no fucking mood music telling you what to think, you know. He had to kind of add that stuff. There's a scene that's that is super cool. It's when Marcellus, no, not Marcellus Wallace, when Jules and Jules and Vincent go to kill that dude with the cheeseburger. Well, not the one with the cheese. Yeah, all those guys. I think they kill all those guys, don't they? In the room, you know the one. You shoot the guy on the couch, all that stuff. Anyway, before they go in there, there's a scene where they're talking about foot massages and stuff, and they're walking up to the door. And they walk up to the door, and Jules is like, "What time is it?" And then he's like, "Oh, well, we're a little early. Let's hang back." And then they go and walk down the hall, but the camera stays at the door. And so they're like way down the hall talking, but the camera's still hanging out at the door. It's like, hey, let's go do this. Because it like literally right before they were in the trunk getting tooled up and stuff. They're like, how many people? They might have shotguns. Oh shit! They should give us shotguns for this kind of shit, you know. And so there's maybe 5 people. They probably have guns. What the fuck? You know, they're getting all tooled up for it and stuff. And then they go and they get to the door. They're like, you know what? Let's wait a few minutes. And the camera's like, fuck, no, let's go. Let's go in here and kill these people. They just go hang back and talk about foot massages for another 3 minutes or 2 minutes or something. That kind of stuff. The little thing. And I mean, even the beginning of that, the looking up out of the trunk scene, that was pretty novel back then, you know. But yeah, you gotta have some tight. You gotta have your movements in there if you're not gonna have the music telling people what to feel and shit. That's why TV drives me crazy, because they'll just go with it, you know. They'll just put it out there like, you should feel sad right now. That's what I like Scrubs, where it's like, oh, we've got goofy music when it's funny and sad music when it's sad. Does anybody remember Scrubs? Of course you do. Of course you do. Oh man. All right. We're done. We're done with this. This list was garbage today, but I feel like it was a good talk. There's some good times. So I mean, fuck, man. Have you watched Face Off lately? You should. Everybody should get your vitamin F in. Oh man. I don't know if it would enhance this podcast or not, but it's definitely available. It's on Netflix right now. Everybody's got Netflix, right? If not, pick it up at your local pawn shop while you're picking up Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines to go listen to that commentary track, which is hilarious. Good times. So I've been doing doing the thing. I haven't seen too many movies lately. I finished that movie Tag, which was about some grown dudes who've been playing tag with each other for 40 years. It's about some dildos from Spokane, of course. God damn it, Spokane. Can't you ever be known for something cool, you dumb sons of bitches? Jesus, why can't we come together and do something cool? We have a super short marathon and a 3-on-3 basketball tournament that everybody knows about, and that's it. Those are the fucking nerdiest things I can think of. And some ding dongs playing tag for 40 years. Fucking assholes. And they didn't even film it in Spokane. They filmed it in Atlanta, which I don't know if I've got on the record as saying before, but Spokane is In my representation, in my travels of the world, Spokane is one of the hugest shitholes I've ever been in my entire life, and I hate it. I hate it so much here. It was like and I'm talking personally, for me, this feels like a swamp with a glass ceiling on it, and you can just get up to where your shoulders are out and your head's pressed against the glass, man. I fucking hate this place. And I know there's planes that go out of here. There's trains that leave here. There's roads that go out of Spokane. I get it. I can leave, and I'm going to eventually. But there's also certain things here. There's reasons for being here right now. And one of those reasons is ceaseless torture of my soul and physical manifestation. You gotta have that sometimes. You gotta have discomfort at every moment of the day. Oh man, it is almost winter. They're blowing out the sprinklers. It's beautiful out there right now. I'll give you that. All right, the last week has been pretty fucking tight weather-wise, and weather is really important to me. I'm getting old, man. I need some dry heat, son. But weather is really important. It changes your whole outlook. Weather changes. The climate I'm talking about is really important. The climate doesn't change. Like, you could be in Arizona and it's 118 degrees, and you go inside and it's air conditioned to where it's like 75 degrees or something, and it's still hot. You're like, you know what? It's fucking still hot. If I step outside, it's still hot. And it's the same here. You know, it can be negative a billion degrees, and I come inside and it's 80 degrees because of the heater, but it's still cold, man. It's still fucking cold. That's just the climate. It's in your bones for 6 months, you know? So anyway, yeah, so we want to do a story about Spokane, but absolutely not film there, because that would be horrible. Why the fuck would we want to go hang out in Spokane for a few weeks? Those dudes are like, no, we're going to Atlanta, baby. That place at least isn't horrible. I mean, I'm assuming it's not horrible. I don't know. I know that it's technically very cheap to film there right now for some reason, but I'm sure that's like city stuff. So anyway, on the record. And I'm not talking this. Okay, there's a fine line too. When I think when I talk about Spokane being a shithole that I hate more than anything on earth, I'm talking about the energy that this place has. It does not jive with my personal energy. All right, I'm not talking about the people here. I'm not talking about it. I'm not talking about the shitty roads. I'm not talking about all the dumb buildings. I'm not talking about the stupid downtown that's infested with scooters now. I'm talking about the literal baseline energy of this place doesn't jive with me. And it colors every single thing that I see here. And I know people who feel the same way. And the evidence is huge. I mean, when I feel mostly like that about Spokane, but to a large degree, the entire state of Washington and Oregon and Idaho and probably Montana too. Pretty much the whole north of what? North of like lower Utah. It's pretty much garbage as far as I'm concerned. But you know, I've lived in Arizona, and I met more people from Washington in Arizona than were from Arizona. You know, there's a vibe thing going on. So anyway, Spokane sucks. I hate it. I'm going on record as saying that I'm tolerating it and using it as much as I can for my own advantage. And other than that, I hope I hope somehow a nuclear bomb hits it and everybody survives and profits from that somehow. My best wishes to everybody who loves this place and thinks it's a great place to be. Power to you. Make it yours. Make it yours, baby, and never ever leave. It's good stuff. So now that I'm not done shitting on Spokane by a long sight, but for this particular episode, I think I'm finished. I think I got my fill. I don't need any more. Maybe just a little more. Oh man, maybe just a touch more. No, it's all good. I'm good with that. Any other things? What are we doing here? I started watching the show Succession, HBO show. It's very good. Had a cool beat at the beginning. Brian Cox, this is a good. He's a man. Fucking crazy. Started watching that, and it's got Sledgehammer in it too. I fucking love that guy, dude. Whenever he shows up, I know it's a quality production. I can't remember what his actual name is, but he's the dude who played Sledgehammer in the TV show Sledgehammer from the late 80s, I want to say, where he had a big ass gun, and he used to have like a catchphrase, but it was like a slapstick sitcom, not really a sitcom, but it was like a slapstick police show, sort of like a Police Squad or something, or like that one. God, what was that one? It's like pretty new. It's got Rashida Jones in it. Her and Steve Carell put it together. I can't remember what it's called, but it's pretty funny. Real slapsticky cop show, you know. Anyway, like that, without the laugh track and all that stuff. But anyway, he played a cop with a huge gun that he kept it on its own pillow by his head when he would sleep, and he'd kiss it and stuff. That's good. I can't remember what his catchphrase was though. It was solid. Anyway, he showed up in Succession, which I'm glad for, because he's, I mean, as corny as that show sounds, he's a fucking good actor and really nuanced, which is cool. Good character actor, you know. Anyway, check it out. Give it a shot, man. Try it out, bro. What else are we doing here? What else is going on? We did find a show called Forever. That was on Amazon Prime, and it was the first Amazon Prime show, like produced by Prime, that I was able to get into. It's fucking cool as shit, man. It was good. It was like funny, really funny. Fuck, man, I can't remember the names of anybody that was in it. My brain is exploding. It had that woman from she was in Idiocracy and on Saturday Night Live, and I just cannot for the life of me remember her name. God damn, that's totally crazy. Huh. Anyway, her and another dude from Saturday Night Live too. I cannot remember anybody's fucking name from that movie. Shit, that's weird. I do remember Peter Weller was in it. He's RoboCop. He's the guy that plays RoboCop. He was in it for like 2-3 scenes. He's whatever. He's like an art dealer now too, or an art historian or something in real life. Oh man, he's like 150 years old too. That's gotta be crazy, dude. That's a movie I get nostalgic for, is RoboCop. I watched that movie probably 250,000 times when I was growing up. I had a VHS tape that was taped from HBO. It's probably why I have an affinity for HBO too. Is an affection for HBO too, is because of that movie was taped off of HBO. And it always said HBO at the beginning of it when I'd start the RoboCop. Anyway, what else is going on? That show is called Forever, by the way. I would definitely check it out. It's cool. It's about a couple that it goes through a thing. It's pretty good. Definitely. We watched it like back to back. Just boom, boom, boom. Knocked it out, you know. Let's see here. What's next? What's going on? Been reading some books. Nothing really great. This is winding down. Let's get out of here. I read some Chuck Palahniuk books. I don't know if that's how you say it. Palahniuk. I read some of his books that I hadn't read. Doomed and Damned. Damned and Doomed. They're a sequel. It's pretty good. I don't know. It's about a teenage girl, whatever. Who knows what's going on? I don't. They just take not offense, but just like I think it's weird that a grown human man would write a book where the main character is a teenage human girl. I don't know. Who gives a fuck? I'm gonna get out of here. Hey, man, thanks for letting me sit in your ear hole. This was a good time. I had fun this time. Last time I wasn't sure. I feel better about this time. And next time I plan to not be sure again. I plan to be racked with doubt all week long and just really muddle through, Just muddle through the weekend, try to get to Monday, and then basically sleep for my weekend and regret that when I wake up on Thursday and have to go back to work. So with that bleak outlook in mind, thank you guys for hanging out. This is fun. Yeah, man, cool. Keep it real. Stay on the road. Keep your feet on the path. There's no other place that they should be, I don't think, at this point. You just stay on the path and keep on chugging along, chugging down the easy. If you got any questions for me, hit me up on social media any way you want to. I don't care. Do it. The best way is Messenger. Questions, suggestions, anything like that. I'm set up now here. By the way, I'm like mobile. I can take this bitch mobile, son. I just throw it all in a backpack. I can go somewhere. Maybe I'll have a guest on here to talk about Face Off. The only problem with that is that guest would have to watch Face Off, and thus far nobody's been willing. They're like, that's way too much of a commitment to have to watch Face Off, just to sit next to you and talk for an hour and a half. It's bullshit, man. You're asking too much of me. And at that point, our friendship ends. And so maybe what I need to do is find people who I have no relationship with. Just random people off the street. I'm sure there's a lot of interesting hobos right across the street in the park from my apartment that would be willing to come on the show for a cup of lukewarm tea without even any sugar in it. And maybe just a few minutes inside of an apartment. That's fucking brutal, man. That's fucking brutal. I wouldn't let him in here. I would go out there and I would chain up the camera so they can't take it. And I would make them watch me do it too. And be like, hey, I'm taping all this stuff to my feet so you can't have it. This is my stuff, which is a lie. None of this stuff is mine. Literally 0% of the equipment that I use to produce this podcast, besides my brain, none of it is mine. It's all borrowed, on its way to being stolen, and hopefully forgotten by the original owners. So that's pretty dope. That's pretty dope. So this I'm seriously considering stopping using the word dope also. By the way, it just seems hard. It found its way into my spectacular vernacular, and now it will not come out. It's like stuck in there. It just pops out all the time like a bubble bubbling to the surface. Dope, 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 dope. I want to start saying the word yeet all the time, but it's hard to get that one in there. Like you try to put a word into your own vernacular, your own spectacular vernacular, then that's hard. It's hard. It's tough to get it in there. Because it's got to start feeling normal, Like at one point, dope. Wow, I just retrogressed there. At one point, dope sounded unfamiliar and unnatural. Now it sounds natural as hell. Maybe that's an overstatement. All right, this has been the longest goodbye in the history of podcasts and human interaction. I think that would be a good story, is if it started out with two people saying goodbye and it was the whole movie. I'd heard there's a book. I never read the book, but I had heard about it. A book called Tristram Shandy. I want to say, and it was like a fake or a made up autobiography of this guy named Tristram Shandy, and and it was like 200 pages in, and it was starting to get to his birth. Like it took 200 pages to even get to his birth in the autobiography. This was this rambling story about whatever. I don't know. That's such a hilarious idea. I love that idea. That's very tangential. That's I love it. All right. So hey, man, sincerely, thank you for hanging out. I hope your days are golden and your nights are silky sweet, little mushroom headed hat wearing fella, little toadstool baby. I hope you can light that hat on fire and warm your tootsies by the stream of never-ending dream sauce that is trickling down the mountain of chocolate covered Bible biscuits. All right, that was enough of that shit. Let's get out of here. Have a great day. Thanks again. Goodbye.